So, you've started university, you've signed up to a sports club or to a society, and those daunting words happen. Right guys, we're going to go on a social. Now socials are one of those things that can be quite intimidating, especially if you've never been on one before. You might not be much of a drinker, or you might realise that perhaps you do sort of succumb to peer pressure. Now, if that is you and this resides with you and you understand what I'm saying, in this video I'm going to be basically discussing and talking to you guys about socials and about how to survive them, what they're all about. So hopefully if you're in a position where you're thinking about joining a society and you know that the social aspect is quite a big part of it, that you feel more confident than you currently do. So let's get into the video and let's go over my top tips on how to survive your socials. First and foremost guys, what is a social? So a social is basically a night out, but the reason they're called socials rather than general night outs is because they're run by societies or sports clubs at university to basically get you guys out with them, having fun, getting to know each other. So when you first join your sports club or society, presuming you are a fresher or you've not actually joined this society beforehand, you might be a second year or a third year, who knows? Normally what they do is sports clubs and societies, the committee that runs them will have a social sec. That social sec is basically in charge of organising all the socials, be that going out clubbing, going to the cinema, doing whatever. Now the first social, especially aimed at you guys that have never been on one before, is often referred to as initiations. Now initiations might seem like a quite scary thing, and some universities and some sports clubs and societies push it a little bit too far sometimes. But they're basically an initiation into the club. They aren't really that scary. I don't know about the US because I know that a lot of the fraternities and sororities do it a little bit differently. But basically, if you're talking about universities in the UK, your initiations is kind of just like a way for the current year's committee and the people that are currently in the society or this club to sort of introduce you to the social side of the club, and often that means quite a nice big night out. There are often a theme to it, so the current students might have one theme and you might have another. So one example that I've had to deal with is all of the current year students were superheroes and all of the freshers and the people who hadn't started were villains. So every sports club or society will run their socials very differently. For instance, it's well known that places, that teams like the football team, the rugby team, hockey, they're often well known to be quite big drinkers. They like going out, they like going clubbing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all the socials are going to be like that. Sometimes people do pub quizzes, some people do movie nights, some people go and play crazy golf or go to the cinema. Socials really are about getting the club together. And sometimes, depending on your club, it does mean you are more likely to go drinking than you are anything else. Now I have a few top tips for how to survive a social. To be honest, it does depend on what the social is. If we are going to look at the generic social, i.e. going to a pub, doing pre-drinks, going to a few different bars and then going out to a club, there are a few things that you need to think about and be aware of before you start your evening, especially if you've never done one before. Now tip number one is don't turn up to the social already drunk. Now this might seem like a very bizarre concept. Normally people do pre-drinks or preload before they go out. A social is designed to get you drunk. So you don't need to be drunk before you get there because they're just going to get you more drunk and it's not going to be a very good night for you. Always turn up to a social sober. By all means, if you're getting ready, have a beer or have a glass of wine or have a vodka and mixer, whatever it may be. But don't do sort of 6 shots and drink half a crate of beer before you turn up, because your night is going to finish before it's even started. So guys, it says it in the name. A social is a very social environment. The whole point of it is to bring people together away from the sport, away from the society, to a mutual place where you guys can talk to each other, you can have a few drinks, whatever it may be. So be sociable. Go out and make new friends. Because I can assure you, like, if you really enjoy this group of people and you enjoy the sport or the society that you're involved with, they may well become lifelong friends. Now, when you go along to these socials, especially if it's, like I say, a generic one, going to a pub, going out clubbing, so on and so forth, you're probably going to be involved in drinking games. Now, if you don't drink, don't worry. There's a high chance that they're not going to force you to do it, and if they do, there is support that will prevent you from basically being isolated because you don't drink. But basically get involved. Now, if you're not a big drinker, don't feel pressured to down horrible drinks and to do this. You're not going to be isolated because of that. But if you are a drinker, really get involved with them because they're so much fun, and you're just going to have a really good time. Now, unfortunately, this is something that I want to make you guys aware of. Sometimes certain sports clubs and teams and certain societies will push it a little bit too far. And they do put a bit too much peer pressure on them. I know because I've seen it myself. And it's not particularly fair. Now, the problem with students, especially with certain types of students that like drinking and have this very drinking-based mentality, is that they don't necessarily understand students that don't drink, or the mentality is man up, like just drink it. Now, if you're feeling a bit pressured, like go and talk to someone about it. You know, normally there is someone within the club that is reasonable. If not, you do have a students' union that you can talk to, and basically just sort of air your concerns. Because ultimately, you're there to have fun. You're there to do the sport or the society that you want to do, and you shouldn't really be pressured into drinking if you're not happy with it. Now, the next tip that I'm going to give you is more to do with if you are a drinker. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't realise they're a drinker until they do a social. Now, my advice to you is to buy drinks that you know aren't going to completely ruin you. Now, the reason I say this is because drinking games is a lot more about quantity rather than quality. For instance, if I'm sat at home, I might enjoy having a nice whiskey. There is no chance in hell I'm going to buy whiskey when I'm on a night out, especially not on a social. What I'm going to buy is I'm going to buy a pitcher of beer. Because what happens is you play drinking games, you play card games, whatever it may be, and it may require you to drink for a prolonged period of time. Now, if you're drinking spirits, if you're drinking glasses of wine, you're going to get drunk and feel sick very quickly. Drink something that you can stomach, drink something that you feel comfortable with, and just don't go in too hard, too quick, because I can assure you, you'll regret it. Okay guys, so those are a few tips. Now, there are literally millions of things that I could talk about. Having organised socials myself, having been involved in socials myself, having done lots of different sort of social things with university clubs. There are literally thousands of things that I could talk about, but I'm going to keep the list as short as possible. Now, one thing I will say before I sort of wrap this video up is when you're starting off at a club or a society or whatever it may be, these are potentially going to be people that you're very good friends with throughout the course of your time at university, and potentially once you finish uni as well. Now, socials, there is a lot of drinking. Depending on the society or club you're with, you're probably going to be around people that you might be attracted to. Just be careful. Now, I'm not going to be like the wet flannel here telling you not to sort of try and get her number or try not to pull that person or whatever it may be. But on your first few socials, don't go jumping to try and pull someone. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to regret the decisions you make early on, because you're going to at least spend potentially the year with them, making friends with them. And you don't want to develop awkward relationships or negative relationships before you've even got to know these people. So just be a bit careful, and try and be aware of what you're doing or what you're saying or the actions that you're doing in the first initial few weeks, to prevent yourself from making enemies. Okay guys, I am going to wrap this video up now. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys have sort of taken something away from it. The end sort of message that I'm going to give you to wrap this video up with is this. Socials are so much fun. Like, you meet so many new people, and not even people that are currently within your sort of society or sports club, but people from outside those as well. Yeah, there's probably going to be some drinking involved, but don't be too intimidated by it, and if you do, go and talk to somebody. But ultimately, guys, enjoy it. Get fully immersed in them, have a good time, and just have fun with it. Now, I'm going to leave the video here, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave it a like. If you have any comments about anything that I've mentioned in this video, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. I will interact with you. So if you have any concerns, then please pop a question down below. Equally, if you guys have had any cool stories that you want to share, stick a comment below, and maybe I'll share some of mine too. As always, make sure you subscribe for more videos like this, vlogs, gym-based things, nutrition, all sorts of other stuff, guys. And until next time, enjoy your socials. See you later.